Welcome to this Reflective Conversations recording highlighting Garry and Les's story and their journey of accessing in-home aged care services. This recording is supported by the Australian Government and the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing. Although funding for this project has been provided by the Australian Government, the information and material contained herein does not necessarily represent the views or policies of the Government. We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands throughout Australia on which we all live and work. We pay our respects to elders both past, present and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander individuals who continue to care for country, culture and community.
So to begin with, let's introduce the team who developed this presentation and suite of resources. Natalie Miller from Grampians Region Sector Development Team and Pauline Cremeri from VEL's LGBTI Ageing and Aged Care. And importantly, this presentation and the accompanying resources were made possible by and with the assistance of Garry White. We thank Garry for sharing his and Les's story and experiences of receiving in-home care. So as a sector, we can understand experiences, improve the journeys and the outcomes of those accessing care and receiving services within their homes.
This recording has been shaped by the lived experiences of Garry and Les, which Garry shared originally on 3CR Radio in 2025. Pauline, Natalie and the Grampians Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Communities of Practice recognised the need to develop a practical resource that highlighted why it is so important for aged care services to be safe, welcoming and inclusive. The case study follows Garry and Les as they navigate access to in-home aged care services. Their experiences remind us that every person receiving aged care has the right to be treated with respect and dignity and to receive care that recognises who they are, their life experiences and their individual needs. In this recording, we will look at Garry and Les's case study and listen to the audio from Garry on 3CR Radio. We'll then build some shared understanding about the history of older LGBTI Australians and the barriers they have faced and in many cases continue to face when accessing aged care services now. From there, we'll look at some of the key sector requirements and reflect on what service providers can do to strengthen inclusive practice. This includes discussing the Specialisation Verification Framework, the strengthened aged care quality standards and the new Aged Care Act. Finally, we'll highlight training opportunities and practical resources that can help support you and aged care services to provide high quality inclusive care.
Before we turn to Garry and Les's story, let's begin with some context, including a brief overview of who we're talking about, starting with LGBTI, plus the terminology, then a look at the aged care sector's responses and requirements, followed by a snapshot of the experiences and needs of older LGBTI plus people, and some actions or considerations you could implement at your service. This overview or introductory information will assist services commencing their journey to understand the experiences and to meet the needs of older LGBTI plus people accessing your care. We will share some experiences and issues for older LGBTI people as they age, which will also highlight some experiences by Garry and Les when they received care within their home. If you're interested in deepening your understanding of the experiences and needs of older LGBTI plus people and ways your service can demonstrate LGBTI plus welcome and inclusion and person-centred care, we invite you to register for one of our free monthly training sessions specifically for CHSP service providers and staff delivered online by VELs. More information and links later in this presentation. So let's begin with some terminology and who we're talking about, starting with the acronym LGBTI+. The L refers to the term or identity lesbian, a woman or gender diverse person who is emotionally, romantically, or sexually attracted to women. The G is for gay, most commonly refers to a person who is emotionally, romantically, and or sexually attracted to people of the same sex and or gender as themselves. It is often used to describe men who are attracted to other men, but some women, particularly some older women, as well as gender diverse people, may use gay to describe themselves. Bisexual, the B, is an umbrella term generally used to describe a person who is emotionally, romantically, and/or sexually attracted to people, regardless of their sex or gender. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual refer to someone's sexuality. The T of the acronym refers to trans, transgender, or gender diverse, and refers to a person whose gender does not exclusively align with the gender they were assigned or that was recorded at their birth. Trans can be used as an umbrella term, but not all trans people will use this term to describe themselves. The term intersex is also best described as an umbrella term. Intersex people have innate sex characteristics that don't fit the medical and social norms for female or male bodies, and that create risks or experiences of stigma, discrimination, and harm. Intersex traits include a range of underlying variations which may be determined prenatally, at birth, during puberty, and at other times, such as when trying to conceive a child. Sex characteristics refer to physical features relating to sex, including chromosomes, genitals, gonads, and other reproductive anatomy, and secondary features that emerge from puberty. The plus refers to other sexual orientations and gender or bodily diversity not included here, and which also includes the term queer. Queer, although not used within this acronym here, is included in the acronym used in the Commonwealth Home Support Program Manual and many other domains. Queer is often used as an umbrella term that includes diverse genders or sexualities, though not all people use or like the term queer to describe themselves. In the ageing and aged care space, it's important to understand that for many older LGBTI+ people, the term queer may cause offence and trauma due to its historical use, the term being used as a term of abuse and vilification in the past. So it's not recommended to exclusively use the term queer in the aged care space, such as communicate that your aged care service is queer friendly, as it may cause offence or trauma for some older people. While some older people might use the term queer to describe themselves, for others it may create an additional barrier to accessing care and support. As you may be aware, and as we've already covered, there is a range of acronyms used by the sector, services, and in the community. So whatever you use within your service might be determined by your organisation, so be guided by them. Some things to be aware of. In the ageing and aged care space, the acronym LGBTI continues to be used, both in policy and also a range of frameworks. The previous Aged Care Act uses LGBTI. The Diversity Framework and Specialisation Verification uses LGBTI. However, the CHSP manual uses LGBTI QA+, or lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, intersex, queer, asexual plus. In the Aged Care Act, which commenced in November 2025, outlined within the Statement of Rights and Principles, there is an expanded group of people or communities with diverse backgrounds and life experiences, and LGBTI people continue to be included within the Act, though note the updated terminology and language moving beyond LGBTI, which could be characterised by the plus. The new language is lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, transgender, or intersex, or other sexual orientations, or are gender diverse or bodily diverse. I encourage you to have a look at the Act and where this is included. Until recently, particularly due to the historical context of the term or identity of queer, research around the experiences and needs of older people has largely focused on and included older people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and/or intersex. It is important to recognise that people are not acronyms. Each person will have their own identity, which incidentally they may or may not share with your service. But they are not an LGBTI person, though they might identify as being part of the LGBTI community. Be guided by each individual and use the identities that they use to describe themselves. So when did the inclusion and focus on older LGBTI people occur in the aged care sector? As mentioned, older LGBTI people are included in the Aged Care Act that commenced in November 2025. However, some people are surprised to know that older LGBTI people have been included in the Aged Care Act since 2012. Their inclusion in the Act with other individuals or groups from diverse backgrounds or experiences stems from the understanding and recognition that some people face additional barriers to accessing aged care services, some of which we will cover in this presentation. The ongoing inclusion and articulation in the new aged care landscape acknowledges ongoing barriers that many groups or individuals continue to experience when accessing aged care services and help support a rights-based, person-centred, trauma-aware and healing-informed approach and care environment, placing the rights and needs of each individual at the centre of their care. It is now more important than ever for you and your service to understand and meet the needs of diverse communities and clients. So again, we encourage you to perhaps take a deeper dive and attend our training, and of course use the case study and resources we are highlighting in this session. We will now provide a snapshot of the experience many older LGBTI+ Australians may have had, which may also have some contemporary impacts on their health and well-being and access to aged care services. Many older LGBTI+ people in Australia have experienced widespread social stigma and discrimination from every aspect of society within their lifetimes. Many who are now in the aged care cohorts up until later in the 20th century, had very limited rights. Historically and throughout their lives, they could have been locked up, were pathologised. Some were forced to undergo medical interventions and practices against their will. Some may have had lack of autonomy about their bodies. Or some could have been fired or had limited employment choices and opportunities if someone found out. It was also commonplace for families, friends and communities such as schools and social clubs and more to reject them or make them wrong. Disapproval also came from religious institutions, and there was often refusal of services or lesser standards of care, which included health and aged care sectors. And with disapproval and being made wrong by every part of society came stigma and discrimination, sometimes in the form of abuse and violence, or sometimes just outright refusal of services. So many older LGBTI+ people have lived a large part of their lives where they had very limited support and rights, and this continues to impact their confidence and access to aged care services. While it might seem obvious, we know that some service providers fail to understand and recognise the diversity within LGBTI+ identities and communities. Understanding diversity and differences, not a one-size-fits-all approach for older LGBTI+ people, is important and fundamental to providing person-centred, inclusive care and support. For many older LGBTI+ people, disclosure may not have always resulted in punishment or disapproval, but it was rarely celebrated. As a result, some older LGBTI+ people accessing your services will make a risk assessment and may choose not to disclose, particularly if they can see no evidence of inclusive actions. It is important as service providers that we clearly communicate welcome and inclusion to LGBTI+ people and not wait for disclosure to implement inclusive care and actions. Also be aware that disclosure is not necessarily a measure of success. LGBTI+ person-centred care understands older LGBTI+ people and communicates welcome and inclusion through actions regardless of disclosure or visibility. The narrative around ageing for many older LGBTI people has largely been negative and focused on fear rather than empowerment. This stems from early research that identified barriers and negative experiences of discrimination that many experience when accessing aged care services, and some ongoing experiences like those outlined in Garry and Les's story. Fear and negative experiences continue to dominate discussions around LGBTI+ ageing and aged care, making many older LGBTI+ people hesitant to access aged care services despite the aged care sector's inclusive commitment and policies. This makes it very important to communicate and demonstrate welcome and inclusion through a variety of actions to build confidence and empower older LGBTI+ people to access aged care services and improve their ageing and aged care journeys. Hand in hand with negative messages around LGBTI+ ageing and aged care is often a lack of understanding by older LGBTI+ people around the range of aged care services available. Much like widespread society, aged care is often perceived as residential aged care or going into care, and there seems to be a lack of knowledge by many older LGBTI+ people about community aged care and its benefits. Again, clear, directed communication to older LGBTI+ people, backed up by inclusive actions, empowers them to find services that understand and can meet their needs. An important component to ageing well and accessing aged care services is having multi-generational family to assist. Not only are adult children and grandchildren the ones who often help out with informal care and assistance, but they often are the ones to help older people navigate and access aged care services as they age. We know that older LGBTI+ people are less likely to have children and often may not have biological family to help, relying on their families of choice or peers to help, who also may have their own aged care needs. And finally, many older LGBTI+ people may experience social isolation. They also might not have connection to LGBTI+ organisations or peers to assist them as they age. Until fairly recently, older LGBTI+ people have largely been invisible in the community. Throughout their lives, concealing or not disclosing their sexuality, gender identity, or intersex variation, if they could, may have meant they could have avoided or minimised discrimination, abuse, or service refusal. The consequence of this is that many older LGBTI+ people are invisible in the community, and therefore many aged care service providers have also thought that they don't have any older LGBTI+ clients, again often relying on disclosure as confirmation. It is important for service providers to recognise you are very likely to have older LGBTI people in your local communities and your current client base, regardless of where you are located and whether they have disclosed or not. In light of this, and also due to data challenges, something we explain in more detail in our training sessions, it's important that services proactively communicate and demonstrate welcome and inclusion and not wait for disclosure to implement LGBTI+ inclusive person-centred actions. One of the most important foundations to providing safe, welcoming and inclusive care to older LGBTI+ people is understanding their histories and the contemporary impacts on their health and their well-being, as well as their confidence to access aged care services. As outlined, older LGBTI people may need assistance understanding and accessing aged care services, not only due to potential absences of informal support structures, but also due to the complexities of the sector and perceptions of expectations of discrimination, lesser standards of care, or services that don't understand their experiences and needs. Services that provide clear messages of welcome versus obscure diversity statements, backed up by actions such as achieving specialisation verification for LGBTI, can assist hesitant LGBTI+ consumers to confidently access care and identify a provider of safety and choice. Providing person-centred care requires an understanding of the experiences and needs of older LGBTI people and communities. Building on from awareness, identify ways that your service can demonstrate, welcome and achieve meaningful actions that build the confidence and trust of older LGBTI+ people and consumers and improve their service experiences. And lastly, for all of us, our home is our castle and our safe place. However, for many older LGBTI+ people, their home has been the only real safe place in their lives, safe from discrimination and the abuse experienced in the outside world, free from having to edit themselves, a place where a risk assessment isn't needed. So consider this, for many older LGBTI+ people, needing to open their doors to service providers can mean opening their door to potential discrimination, needing to edit or hide, and violations of the only place of safety that they may have had. We hope this provides some context and understanding as we explore and reflect upon the in-home care experiences of Garry and Les. We now invite you to reflect on the information we have just provided as we now listen to Garry as he shares his and Les's experience of in-home care. Their story and experiences have inspired the case study resources.
The bane of my existence when we were actually looking for providers. I started looking and lo and behold, I found a Rainbow Tick accredited provider, which I thought, great, problem solved. Left my number with them. I'll get back to you towards the end of next week. Because of the way the aged care system was to change, they stopped aged care. So I was back to the drawing board. It was community-based aged care. I thought, oh, well, this is pretty easy. I managed home and community care services. I thought I knew the sector, thought I knew the way everything worked, but no. I say to people, a lot of people think the NDIS is a minefield to navigate. It's easy compared to the My Aged Care system in general. But the biggest problem, or the biggest obstacle I come up with was easily finding community-based aged care providers who were actually Rainbow accredited. It would be really, really nice if you could type in Rainbow Tick accredited My Aged Care providers and you come up with a list in your area. Going to the My Aged Care portal and typing, looking for LGBTQIA+ as part of their, this is what we do. Wow. 8 out of 10 organisations do that according to them. But when you actually talk to them, you get stories like LGBTQIA+, irrelevant, was actually said to me by a provider. Irrelevant. Another response was, well, we don't really need to worry about that.
Because we haven't got any of your sort of people.
Yeah, was what wasn't said. It was really important, and we never got this. It was really important because my husband, when he came out of hospital after his stroke, self-isolated himself. He also needed contact and context back to his community as well. It wasn't just me, but to have someone who knew what we'd been through, or not exactly what we'd been through, but had an understanding, had personal experience in it. We had workers sent from, one worker walked in, looked around the lounge room and went, "Oh, you should away most of this stuff because it's not correct to have in a house." In other words, this person wanted us to de-gay the household. Look, I'm big enough to turn around to a person that says that to us, "There's the door, go." That's what I did. This is my house, my safety net, my cave, whatever. Or our cave at the time. Yes, this may be your workplace. Your workplace happens to be in our house. Why should we de-gay? Because it offends your senses. And if it offends your senses, why the hell are you coming to a gay household to start off with? Why the hell? Aged care as well. It was literally the next shift. A worker came in. Halfway through the shift, he turned to me and said, "How long have you been gay?" And I answered him since I was 16 that I self-recognised. And his response was, "So you were gay before it became fashionable." When I rang them to complain about it, "Oh, we do training on that." I said, "Well, do you monitor its ness?" "I've made a complaint. What's going to happen?" "I would look into it." And I never heard back. My fear is that, as I said, I'm big enough to deal with that and stand up for us. But with someone who is already not isolated, already in fear of, if I say something about this, does that mean I don't get any more services? It's easy for me to do it, but I put myself in the position of my late husband, Les. If he'd been at home by himself, with anyone in that situation, after what he went through health-wise, he lost his confidence. He lost his voice. He lost the ability at times to put his words together. There are a lot of people like that who don't have the ability to be who they were.
I think we can all agree after listening to Garry and Les's experiences that they were not affirming, person-centred or inclusive. We now invite you to reflect upon how your service would have responded and provided care in this situation. How do you believe your service would be perceived by someone like Garry trying to identify an LGBTI aware, safe or inclusive service? What would he see on your My Aged Care portal as a service provider? If Garry picked up a brochure or looked on your website or phoned your service, what would he see or how would he be greeted? Does your service have specialisation verification for LGBTI, making it easier for someone like Garry to identify a service that has embedded key actions to support older LGBTI+ people? We would ask you to consider the ways someone like Garry might identify if your service is welcome and or inclusive. What are the ways that your service communicates with individuals, and what are the actions or things that would build his confidence or trust in your service? If you had a similar care situation in your service, do you believe that you or your staff would have reacted in the same way? What would you have said or done differently in this person's home? And what processes as an organisation do you have for staff and individuals to provide feedback to your organisation? Finally, we invite you to identify 3 ways your service could improve the experiences of older LGBTI+ people accessing your service. Share these with your team and develop an action plan. The case study used in this recording has come from a resource called Diversity and Inclusion, Dignity and Respect, one couple's journey of accessing in-home aged care services. You can find the resource located at www.csdgrampians.org.au/diversity/Garry/Les/story. On this page, you'll be able to listen to Garry and Les's case study via the audio file and download the accompanying case study to consider what inclusive service principles and strengthened consumer-centred care looks like within your own organisation. On the 24th of February 2025, Natalie appeared on the Rainbows Don't Fade with Age radio show on 3CR, joining Pauline and Andrew from Val's Ageing and Aged Care to promote Garry and Les's story and to discuss accessing aged care services within regional and remote communities. A recording of this can also be viewed from this page.
And finally, it's important that your service understands and provides rights-based, person-centred, trauma-aware care in line with the New Aged Care Act that supports each individual, their diversity, identities, life experiences and needs. Implement actions that clearly demonstrate how you meet the needs of each individual, including older LGBTI+ people. Consider achieving specialisation verification for LGBTI or for other diverse communities. Specialisation verification helps consumers identify services that have an understanding of their needs and have achieved key actions. Specialised services help improve navigation and experiences of care. VELS can help you achieve specialisation verification. Contact us to find out more.
We are here to help. VELS Ageing and Aged Care provides a range of assistance to support CHSP services to be aware and inclusive of older LGBTI+ people. VELS has free open monthly online training. To register and/or to find out more about this training, please visit the links seen on your screen. VELS can also help you achieve specialisation verification by providing free support and guidance to CHSP providers, as well as assisting you to achieve Tier 2 specialisation verification for LGBTI. Contact VELS for more information, advice, training, or to access resources to support your services and staff. The Grampian Sector Development Team, along with any other sector support and development team across Australia, can provide support on all things CHSP related, including diversity inclusion implementation, training, advice on service delivery, implementation of the Aged Care Act and all regulatory legislation, or assistance with strategic or operational direction of your organisation. Please visit the Supports for Providers of Aged Care Expertise Directory, or SPACED, to find out the details of your local support. Thank you for listening to this recording. We hope it will assist you on your journey to truly understand the meaning of providing respectful and dignified aged care services to all individuals you support, which meets their individual needs and diverse life experiences. Please feel free to share this recording and the resource with your fellow colleagues and to anybody else you feel would benefit. If you would like further information on anything we have spoken about in this recording or have any questions about the material presented, please feel free to reach out directly to the people who brought you this recording, Natalie Miller or Pauline Cremieri. Their details are listed on your screen for your reference.